Welcome to this live session hosted by Fab, your insurance broker and moving to France expert. Fab is like your immigration GP. We're here to answer all your questions: visas, residency, healthcare, driving, taxes, properties, and much more. We navigate the complexities of France to help you embrace the French lifestyle you've always imagined. Although we are experts in the immigration industry and have been working in this space since 2015, none of what we say should be considered legal or financial advice. It is also worth noting that the immigration industry is an ever-evolving field, so things that are relevant today might be outdated or inaccurate when you actually move to France. Fab's main source of revenue is insurance through our brand, Fab French Insurance. Our main goal is to ultimately help you move to France, as we only sell insurance to clients applying for a visa, a residency permit, or those with a French address. During this session, you can ask any questions you want. However, we will not answer long questions to keep the pace fast. We also won't be able to address questions related to personal or very specific issues, but rest assured, we can get in touch after this session to either advise or refer you to one of our trusted partners. And now it's time to get this event started. Thank you for joining us today. We hope you find our answers valuable. Our greatest reward would be to be a part of your journey to moving to France. And hopefully, it starts with this session today. We will pause briefly to allow all registrants to join. The session will begin shortly.
And good morning or good evening, everyone. So I'm Fabien. I'll be your host this evening, and I'm joined with Adrian. Patty, you've turned the camera back on. If you well, actually, it's a good way to introduce. Also, there's going to be Patty and Nani in the background who can also answer all of your questions. Please leave them in the Q&A section, and we'll be happy to address them. We'll try to answer as many questions as we can live as well. We also have a few things we want to talk about with Adrian in regard to today's hot topic, which is, well, it's 101, I suppose now, but 100 days of Trump. Is it time to move to France now? But Adrian, maybe just a couple minutes to introduce you and your team and what you do for those who would not know you.
Thank you, Fabien. I'm Adrian Leeds of the Adrian Leeds Group, and we are basically property consultants. We think of ourselves as French property, the American way, because our primary market is North Americans, not just U.S. Americans, also Canadians. But we are for and by North Americans. And our main goal is to make dreams come true. Really make dreams come true. Help people make the move over to France, to help them find property to rent or to purchase, and to, of course, help them with getting visas, tax advice, insurance with you, et cetera, et cetera. And we're really soup to nuts.
Yeah,
and that's what we do.
Definitely. And I can vouch for that because, well, we've been working together for quite a while now. And I think it's very important because there is a bit of a psychology in this. You're moving to a foreign country. It's important to not do, well, the beginner's mistakes, obviously. And I know you've been helping a lot of Americans move to France, either to rent the property or buy the property. So, yeah, they'll be in safe hands with you. So I think we should get started with, and it's funny because we didn't even got the first question out. I've seen the question in the Q&A already. This is a hot question that I'm hearing often in my consultations as well, given the current situation, let's say. Are the French people as well coming towards Americans nowadays? What has been your experience?
Oh, the French have the ability to compartmentalize, and they do not equate Donald Trump with Americans, believe it or not. They love us. We have been their allies since the French Revolution. They have seen presidents come and go, up and down, and they don't actually equate their feelings about Americans with whoever's in office at the time. They have the ability to see the difference between them. But on top of that, most of the Americans who are living here really do pretty much fall on the left anyway. People who travel, who are willing to experience different cultures, who are generally open-minded, well-educated, tend to be on the left. And so we're birds of a feather, and that's who they're dealing with. Americans like us, in
Hmm.
effect.
Yeah, and so Nani, who's also answering some questions, also American. She shares the same thing. She's never had a bad situation or people speaking badly about her being American, and I suppose that's same for you. And you're in Paris. It's not that there's a lot of people there, so you could have come across wrong people or bad people.
You
So
know what they do? They tell us they feel sorry for us right now.
yeah, if anything, I think we're
We're
more
terribly
empathetic
sorry
nowadays.
for what's happening to you. Uh-huh. They have sympathy for us as Americans because we're like freaking out.
No, right. Just because I've seen the question, you operate all across France, don't you?
Oh yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely. Yeah.
Okay.
We do have teams. We have a team in Paris and we have a team in Nice because that's our two primary markets. But we can help people all over the country, of course.
Yeah. So as this is also the topic tonight or tomorrow. Well, I suppose if you're from the US, it's tonight's. No, this morning's topic actually is tonight for us. The moving to France. Do you think, politically speaking, because we've just mentioned the French people, but do you think the French politics or politicians are going to change anything in regard to French immigration rules or policies towards Americans that wants to move to France?
I actually think they're going to loosen them up. Emmanuel Macron has really stated very openly that he is very open-armed toward Americans, particularly Americans in science and in IT, because they're seeing a brain drain happening in the U.S.
Hmm.
and they see opportunity. And they've always been welcoming to us, and I think that will always be. We haven't seen any indication that they're going to do anything to prevent immigration into France from the US.
No,
No.
you're right. I mean, if anything, you also have the tax treaty, which is very favorable, probably one of the best around as well.
I've been told that it's just about the best tax treaty in the world, certainly the best in Europe. And it's very easy for an American to come here and actually pay a lot less tax than they're paying in the United States by living in France.
No, you're right. The another concern. Well, I don't like this word; it sounds negative, but that I've heard
Le
recently.
problème, c'est que.
Le problem. Yes. Oh,
Le
that's right. This
problème,
is
c'est que. Uh-huh, the
this is
concern
one of the French sentence you need to learn. All the French would say that to you. Yeah.
every 10 minutes. Yes. But anyway.
Yeah, well, we love to complain. This is our way of venting, I suppose. Do you think, like, I've had some people who said to me that they're concerned or may not move to France yet because of the falling US dollar. Well, in regard to the euros, what do you think about that?
Well, first of all, rate of exchange fluctuations are the norm. I mean, I have certainly seen it go from $1.60 to the euro to parity and back again, because it's going to constantly fluctuate. I don't see that as the main problem. What's happening with our clients, at least, is that, they're losing money in the stock market. Okay, but stock market is a yo-yo. One minute it goes up, one minute it goes down. We don't really know what's going to happen because every day there's some new crazy announcement that makes it change, right?
Hmm.
But people are concerned about their savings diminishing and not having enough money to make the move or make a purchase in France. So I don't think the rate of exchange is as big a problem. I know lots of people who came and bought property when it was as much as $1.40 to the euro. Right now, I got a rate today. I think it was $1.13. Not too terrible, all things considered.
No,
And
and we've talked about that before before starting this webinar, tonight's webinar. There's a big difference between the US real estate market and the French real estate market, which makes waiting probably not the best decision because French market doesn't fluctuate that much actually.
no, in fact, it's much more stable for a lot of reasons. The American property market really goes up and down, just like the financial market does. It's a real yo-yo, and it's tough to manage. It's much more stable in France. There's the reasons for that are actually pretty interesting. The French system is that they are morally obligated to accept asking price, which means that properties don't go into bidding wars like they do in the States, which does affect the value of the property. It becomes inflated as a result of it. They also do not build a lot of negotiation room in. We find that the seller usually builds about 5% in for negotiation. The system itself maintains a more consistent value. Now, in the last few years, we have seen Nice and environs really escalate more than anywhere else in the country. Whereas Paris has been down, but we're seeing Paris come back up now.
Oh yeah, and by the way, we can ask the audience to send some cheers because, well, Adrian has been very brave, or is very brave, because you have a bit of a cold, and yet you
Yes.
decided to be with us anyway.
I'm sorry for my coughing.
No, thank you for being here. Actually, this it's just I'm saying this question, and because you've mentioned, well, Paris, Lyon, and Nice are definitely big US expat areas, but sometimes people ask about other places. So, like Sandra is asking, what about smaller or medium-sized city for US retirees, for example, New York, Angoulême? What's your angle with that, or
Oh,
what's
I
your
have a
view
lot
about
to say about this. In fact, I wrote a newsletter which comes out today, all about where to live in France. I call it the Peter Mayle syndrome.
that?
Peter Mayle syndrome, if everyone knows who Peter Mayle was, he was an author who wrote about his trials and tribulations in a small town in Provence, in the Luberon. And he really made it sound, lovely and sexy. And people have this image of this life in the countryside in France. And that can be rather idyllic for a short amount of time. But if what you want is to be able to travel extensively, now you're retired and you have the ability to travel easily and inexpensively all over Europe or the rest of the world, then you want to be near an airport. If you're worried about healthcare, you don't want to be in a health desert. You want to make sure you're close to hospitals and doctors. Um, if you're moving abroad and you don't speak French, maybe you want to be close to a good American community, so you can commiserate with that community and feel welcomed. Maybe climate is a factor. So the bottom line is that we try to encourage our clients not to go hold themselves up in a tiny little village where they're going to need a car. Because if you live in certain cities like Paris, like Nice, like Lyon, you don't need a car. You can divest of that. A car is, when you're older, maybe you don't want to drive. Maybe it'd be dangerous to drive. It's also a huge expense. And not needing to get in a car to go somewhere means you are no longer living in your bubble. It means you can live really and commune with other people. So if you choose one of France's beautiful cities, even a small city that has public transportation, that has good access to the TGV and to airports, then you can really, really maximize your life. And
This is
so,
this,
I know that we've been accused of centering on Paris and Nice. And that's not entirely true. But what is true is that they are both heavenly places to live.
yeah, and you also are touching base on a very one of the key questions or topic I raise in many consultations that people aren't aware of. Well, if they go to, like you were saying, the big cities, well, again, Lyon, I like to say cities with districts. So Lyon and Paris at least, and Nice, because they're well connected. There is a very good public transportation. Healthcare is top notch. So
Right.
there's no problem there. But if you go to smaller cities or cities that may not be as well connected or with it's more scattered also sometimes, like the amenities and stuff. Well, then you will need to drive. And the problem is France only have driver license exchange agreements with 14 states in the US, most of those being on the East Coast, by the way. There's pretty much none on the West Coast. And so that's a problem because if you're from a state
True.
like California that doesn't have a driver license agreement, exchange agreement, it means it's either you're going to have to spend to go through the French driving test again
Which ain't
and
easy.
ask Nanny. She
And
had to do that.
expensive.
So it's not funny.
No. And
Um,
it has to be done within the first year of getting your visa.
if you
You have
want to
to
convert.
rush. You have to
Yeah.
rush to get this done.
Yeah.
Oh,
So that's why this is
right.
really, I mean, driving in France for me is one of the leading thing to have in mind or to bear in mind or to factor in whatever you do or don't want to be driving, because then it will influence massively where in France you can actually live. Because if you don't want to be driving, then it
Oh, then
narrows
it,
your search.
then it's a lot more limiting.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
So,
I
so
do I have my six favorite cities in France, for great places for Americans to live.
oh,
And
I'm curious.
one of them, well, yeah, one of them, well, Paris, of course. One of them is Lille. And I know Lille is kind of a sleeper city, but Lille is really interesting to me for a couple of reasons. First of all, it's about a quarter the price of Paris. So for people who are on a small budget, Lille can be just heaven. Okay. The downside to Lille is weather because it's cool and rainy. Okay, but the upside is that the TGV goes to Brussels in 30 minutes, Paris in an hour, London in an hour and a half, and Amsterdam in 2.5. So, what does that mean? You can live in this small city, not spend much money. It has a very large student population, so it's young and active and
Mm.
vibrant. You've certainly got good health care there. It has a large Anglophone community because there are a lot of British there. And you can get on the TGV and go to Paris for the day and go see some great exhibition and have lunch and go home
Mm.
again. There's even a TGV direct to Charles de Gaulle. So
Oh,
you
to
can
the airport.
fly out. So
Mm.
imagine for international travel, you can choose from any of those cities that have TGV access.
Mm.
So for me, Lille is sort of like a unknown sleeper, but great destination.
I'm biased. My grandma is from there, so
Ah, there you go. And it's also a lovely city. And but it has it's Flemish in nature. It's Belgian in nature.
Mm-mm. Yeah, you have to love French fries.
Yeah, well, you're going to learn to love French fries if you're living there, that's for sure. But people don't think of Lille at all.
No, that's right. No, you're right. Yeah, it's not something I come across often, indeed. Yeah.
No, no, but see, this is like one of
So
my favorite
six, you were
spots.
saying. So Paris, Nice.
Well, okay, and the other cities that I like Aix-en-Provence.
Oh,
Uh,
it's gorgeous. Yeah.
Aix is gorgeous. It's highly cultured. It's got that Provençal flavor. It's the hub of Provence, and it's a 30-minute ride to the Marseille airport, which is an international airport.
Yeah, it's great. And it's not
It,
Marseille. It's a bit smaller and therefore a
no,
bit
it's
less
not
busy.
Marseille. I don't recommend Marseille.
No, me
Marseille's
neither.
another
Yeah.
story.
I mean,
But
Marseille could be nice, but it's just you have to know it's a big city, yeah, as well.
yeah, the downside to X, however, is that it can get very, very hot in the summer.
Well, the Med side can get very hot. If you have air conditioning is a lifesaver there.
Yes, but the town gets, I mean, it can be 20 degrees hotter than Nice, easily. Believe it, Fahrenheit, not Celsius, Fahrenheit. It can be 20 degrees hotter than Nice at the same period of the year,
Mm.
believe it or not. But yeah, X is one of them. Strasbourg is one of my favorite cities. I think it's beautiful. It's Germanic in character. But it's an international city, has a lot of international following because it was the seat of the EU, right?
Yeah,
For a
yeah.
while, right? So I think this is important.
There's something it's a bit unrelated, but I'm saying this question, and this is something we've discussed so often, and that I can't prevent myself but to ask it to you. You love it. John is asking, with a residency permit, while I realize I can't work in France, I'm wondering if I can work remotely for companies outside of France. Is that allowed? Because I know there's so much fear mongering on that topic, and I know you like this topic as well.
I
So
love this topic because we've figured it out. I
yeah.
figured it out. I had to figure it out many years ago.
No, but
There
there's so
are
many
ways. There are ways to
advisors
do
who
it.
mislead people about that. Yeah.
No, no, no. There are ways to do it. It's a matter of setting yourself up legally and correctly on the US side. And the bottom line is whether you're reporting your income and paying the taxes.
Yeah, well, that's what France wants,
It's really
basically.
all about that. The bottom line is that. We have this conversation with our clients all the time. Some people think that what they should do is set up an LLC. That is not a correct answer because an LLC is a transparent company. So anything the LLC earns, you earn in effect. So there is a particular type of a US corporation that needs to be set up. It can be a huge advantage and it's absolutely clean and legal to do.
All right. No, the problem is people sometimes scare those people off and say, no, you can do that. Or, they try to put people off or set up some crazy
No,
schemes
no,
which
it's
are not
not
tax
right.
efficient.
It's not
Yeah.
right. Now, the main objective though is if you're working via a US company, but you're working with American clients, then just the fact that your tushy might be sitting in France doesn't really matter because it
Mm.
really doesn't have anything to do with France at that point.
Yeah. Well,
But
and just
again,
a bit,
it
you,
just has to do with your tax residency. So if you're a tax resident in France, then you need to report your earnings, but of course the tax treaty comes
mm.
into play.
Um, so back to the topics we were talking about. It's an interesting question from Monica. It says, "Hi Adrian, hi Monica. If I were to choose a suburb very close to the periphery of Paris, which would be good options, and which should I avoid? I want to be close to the heart of it
Oh,
all."
well, generally, I I particularly like the suburbs that are on the metro line rather than the RER line because then you can get into town closer. You know, there's a psychological barrier. The peripherique creates a psychological barrier.
It does. Yeah.
Yeah, people don't go outside of the peripherique. They're not going to visit you if you live outside of Paris. But at least if you're on the metro line, it doesn't feel as bad. If you have to get on an RER to get out to the suburbs, it's a little bit different. That being said, there are some beautiful suburbs, particularly on the west side, where there are a lot of American and bilingual schools. So there are a lot of Americans living in the suburbs to the west, which would be like Le Vésinet and Maison Lafitte, and Saint-Germain-en-Laye. So there are a lot of Americans living in those suburbs, and they are beautiful, and they are more like living in the countryside. But if you're living out there, you may never go to Paris.
I've heard you say, basically, you and I, we like Macron's right arm. We sell France on a daily basis. And
Yeah.
so, well, I have a test for you. Kevin's asking, been watching a lot of your video on YouTube. Like the Dordogne, since it has a good amount of expats, is France a lot easier for 6 month a year retirees than Italy?
I'm sorry I'm laughing. It's because I love Italy, but Italy is a great place to eat and drink coffee. And then you go home to France because Italy
Uh,
is so
you're French,
anarchistic.
aren't you?
No, 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 but Italy is so anarchistic, nothing works. I mean, the minute you cross the border, you see the difference. I spent a weekend in the region of Champagne, okay, over Easter weekend, and I we drove for 2 days all over the countryside, and it was so beautifully, it was clean, well maintained. The signage is perfect. I mean, it's just fantastic. Driving all over France is just amazing, beautiful. The minute you cross into Italy, you can see nothing's well taken care of. And I personally would not want to deal with all of that. I mean, I can tell you a time at the train station in Florence, and I looked up and there wasn't a single train that was on time. Not a single train. And in France, if it's not on time, they give you your money back. I mean,
Right. Yeah, I
yeah,
just got 20 euros back from my last trip to Paris because it was late. Yeah.
Exactly. So no, no, no.
But
You see,
I can speak about this topic. I cannot speak about that because I'm too heavily biased. So, and my stepmom is Italian, so I'll be killed
I
after.
love Italy. I love traveling all over Italy. I love the Italians. I love the food. I was just in Naples recently. It was great. But would I want to like live there and deal with that? No. So you live in Nice. You can go to Italy on Friday mornings to the Ventimiglia market on the train. Okay,
Oh,
cost you
Vantimi is
8 euros.
nice. Yeah.
Ah, cost you 8 euros. You go shop till you drop, come home, you're happy.
Well, it's a good question because it's actually often a topic that, well, it's a topic that comes often. Well, an anonymous attendee is asking, wondering how estate tax works. Does it make any difference if assets are held in a trust? I've heard 30% estate tax. That's a bit concern for my children.
Oh, that's a huge question. First of all, France does not recognize trusts. So when you move to France, you're going to want to do away with your trusts. But we recommend speaking to our tax advisor, Jonathan Hadida, to set you up correctly before you move over. You really want to talk to professionals.
Oh, yes. Yeah,
That's
definitely.
that's the way to do it. And then
And when you do that before you move, you may have options. Once you've moved, well, actually, it may come with a tax bill. Yeah.
you might, right, you might want to know what your options are before you make the move. It's a really good
Mm-mm.
idea to do that. And there are ways to circumvent the inheritance taxes. There are ways. You just have to plan ahead.
That's a good question. Carrie is asking, any advice on buying a converted mansion that is now apartments? Does the quality depend on the property management and, of course, location?
Of course it does. Yes.
Location
The
seems,
answer
yeah,
to that
this
is
one
yes.
seems, yes.
Yes, that's easy. By the way, I just want to make sure that we also like talk about 100 days of Trump. Because what I figured out was that 100 days is 6.8% of his
Uh,
term.
no. Don't
6.8%.
say that.
I'm sorry. It was kind of a rude awakening. Um, recently what I did was I asked Chat GPT, what damage has Donald Trump done to the United States since he's been in office? And that was when he was 27 days in. Okay. And it was pages and pages long of damage that he's done to our country. Okay. And so 100 days in, it's so shocking that on a daily basis, we don't even know how to deal with it. I've come to the conclusion, however, that this is going to right itself because he's basically going to dig his own grave. That, he's losing support by his own constituents, by his own party. And by virtue of that, that's obvious. I mean, he has the lowest rating of any president, right? Ever at the 100-day mark.
But he did say the opposite yesterday, but
Well,
yes.
of course he said the opposite because, that's what he does, right? He continues to feed us all sorts of lies. And there are some people who believe him, and there are all of us who don't. But basically, if his Republican Party candidates are not going to get reelected, then this pendulum is going to swing in a big way, and they're going to become less and less happy. And my prediction is that they will find a way to impeach him for
Mm.
real, because he's already been impeached twice.
Well, I'd say hopefully, but so far it doesn't look this way, unfortunately.
Well, but you see, I'm an American. I'm an optimist.
Well,
I think that we would all have to go
I'll
have
take that.
lobotomies for that to actually, for us to let this continue to happen.
Mm.
We cannot let this continue to happen.
Well, okay, well, therefore, because the like nowadays, uh, instability and uncertainties might also be a bit of a scare off for people. So as you've helped so many people, Americans obviously move to France. Uh, what would be the advantage of moving now?
Well, of course, we're talking to people who have been thinking about this for a very long time, but this political situation has just been the catalyst to doing it faster. Okay. The truth is, forget Donald Trump. Don't even worry about Trump and what's going to happen in the US. The truth is that moving to France is going to enrich your life so much for a lot less cost. You can literally live here for about half of what it costs you to live in the United States and have a much richer, fuller life. You can have better health care. You can have better education for your kids. I mean, you can really improve everything. And Donald Trump or no Donald Trump, the United States has a lot of serious problems. They have a health care issue. They have a gun control issue. They have an education issue. They have so many issues that can't be solved in the next 2, 3 generations. So the point is, why not do yourself a favor and create a better life for yourself? Oh, listen, I didn't come here because of political reasons. I came because I just wanted to check it out and see what it would be like to live in France because I'd fallen in love with it. And that was 30 years ago. I came for 1 year.
A
I
couple
couldn't
years
stay
ago,
for
you mean a couple years ago, yeah.
yeah, a couple years ago. But no, I have you after living here 1 year, you'd have no reason to want to go back.
The only downside, though, is that you have to be careful about your wine intake because the French will tease you into getting more.
Wait, worse. Worse is bread. Okay. I'm trying desperately not to eat baguette and butter. Very difficult. Okay.
But you're
Um,
buying into the French paradox. I know American doctors are puzzled about this. Like we consume so much butter and dairy products, and yet we don't have more cardiovascular disease. It puzzled them.
no, you only have more cancer from smoking.
Yeah, but so you don't smoke, and then you can get all of the baguettes and the butter you want.
Exactly. No, I haven't figured out how to eat all that good food without gaining weight. Not yet.
Well, well that may be why wine is part of the mix. I don't know.
Uh,
It fills you up a bit. Actually, well, speaking about wine, just because also I'm seeing a question from Jan. I think it might be, how does the real estate market in Bordeaux look? Well, I mean, I've seen
in Bordeaux?
you did a video in Bordeaux, like a house centers
I
there.
did
I've
a house
seen, yeah.
hunters in Bordeaux. I'm not a huge fan of Bordeaux. Um, I think it's a beautiful city. It's a lovely city. You can really eat great oysters there. Um, the problem I have with Bordeaux is twofold. First of all, you can get to Bordeaux from Paris with a TGV in 2 hours, but then you're kind of stuck on the west side of the country and you have the Massif Central in the middle. So anytime you want to really go anywhere, you pretty much have to go back to Paris. You have to take that 2 hour trip before you can, fly out again. That's one thing. The other thing is that the Bordelais, they're kind of, they don't want to open up the wine industry to anybody else. They don't think Americans could possibly know anything about wine. And so they're not as welcoming. It's not as international a city as some of the other cities. So they're just not as open and welcoming. There is a small American community there. I'm sure that I have clients there. I'm sure they love it. So, but when it comes to a hierarchy of great places to live, it's just not one of my favorites.
It's funny because for me, it's also a bit of a cliche because that if anything, Bordelais and Parisians they don't get along, and you live in Paris, so it's also
Well, yeah, well, but that's because the Bordelais they're very insular in their own little way.
in a way, yes, in a way. But
Yeah.
I have family in both Bordeaux and Burgundy. Well, I shouldn't say that live, but I do prefer Burgundy wine anyway. But yeah,
My favorite wine is a Burgundy wine.
oh, mine's the one.
My favorite one is Morgon, which is a
Oh.
Beaujolais that's been aged in oak for 5 years. There
No,
you go.
but I mean, it's personal. It's personal taste as well. But yeah, no, but I mean, in terms of price tags, how did I
It's
compare?
also expensive. Bordeaux is not cheap.
No, no, yeah, it isn't. Yeah,
Yeah,
well, it isn't.
no.
So, oh, Dean is asking, are areas changing more than other areas? Some of the social ills in larger US cities are increasing, or are the French handling this?
I'm not sure I understand the
Yeah, me
question.
neither. Are areas changing more than others?
Areas?
Yeah, places. Yeah, I don't know.
Well,
Well,
there's
sorry, Dean. I
definitely,
don't-
okay, there's a huge growth of American immigration. American immigration is really changing the landscape. There is no question about it. We have seen an explosion in Nice. Explosion. Everybody's talking about it. The media's talking about it. Everybody on the ground's talking about it. Our community has grown exponentially. It's fantastic. And they're welcoming, they're happy. Americans are a good change on the landscape.
Oh yes, that's why you're so
Absolutely.
welcomed. Yeah.
Yeah. So, and we're seeing that happen.
And
We're seeing
especially the kind of American who usually move to France.
we're
Yeah.
seeing it happen in the tiny town of Uzès. Now, Uzès, okay, which is in the Occitanie, is a beautiful village, not far from Nîmes and the Pont du Gard and Arles. And Uzès has an American
Oh
community.
yeah, it was this very nice place. Like all
Very
those
nice. But
cities you've
getting
mentioned, I
to
love. Yeah.
Uzès, getting in and out of Uzès is
Mm.
not easy. So if you want to go hole yourself up in Uzès, go have fun, but you're not traveling from there much. That's kind of part of the
And
problem.
you'd need a car there. Yeah.
Oh yeah, you would need a car.
Yeah. So actually, Ivan asked the question. You basically answered, but like, what about Alsace-Lorraine region? Easy to navigate. You mentioned Strasbourg, for
Oh yeah.
example, which is there. Yeah.
It's cold, though. Strasbourg is very cold in the winter. It's on the edge of the Black Forest, but you can always go to Baden-Baden for the spas.
You've mentioned Nice and some places around the Med side. What about, do you know anything about Montpellier, for example, or how do you feel about it?
I filmed a show in Montpellier. We have a lot of clients in Montpellier. It has a nice small American community. It's 3 hours by TGV from Paris. It's 20 minutes to the seacoast, to the seaside. It's a funny thing. I have a personal dislike of Montpellier. It's
Oh,
totally,
really?
I couldn't understand why I was always depressed when I was in Montpellier. And then I couldn't understand why, when I was filming, I got stopped on the street multiple times because I was wearing colorful clothing. Okay. And they were like, oh, la couleur, j'adore la couleur, blah, blah. And then I realized and investigated that the official city color of Montpellier is gray. So all the shutters and all the doors, okay, have to be painted one of two shades of gray. Gray. And I realized that that's why it always seems so sad to me.
I'm not sure that's the name of the movie. It's not Two Shades of Grey. Sorry.
50 Shades. Oh, 50
Sorry,
Shades of
sorry.
Grey. No, but seriously, when I learned this, I realized why it doesn't have the life of Nice, because Nice is so colorful. The
The soft
buildings,
usually is, yeah.
oh, I mean, you've got the buildings and the blue water, and everything is just colorful, and the art is colorful, and people are colorful. And I realized that's why I get depressed when I go to Montpellier.
Yeah,
What
because
I say?
yeah, if gray is the national color, indeed, yeah. So
Yeah.
actually, I don't think you mentioned six cities. You've said Lille, Paris, Lyon, Nice,
Okay, the
Strasbourg.
last is not actually a city. The last is a region.
Oh, okay.
I love Provence.
Okay,
Now,
which is yeah.
now Provence, the Luberon. I love the Luberon. If you want to drive, if you want to be in the countryside, then the hilltop villages of the Luberon are to die for. I mean, it's
Hmm.
just gorgeous. And there's a really large American community among all of them. But you have to be prepared to drive from village to village to see your friends.
No, well, yes, we've talked about this, and but that's really something not to be overlooked. I mean, if you are in a smaller mid-sized city or in rural France, you do need to drive, and if you do need to drive,
Absolutely.
you do need to have a French driver license, which means you need to come either from a state to have the agreement, or to exchange your license to a state that has an agreement, or to be ready to go through the test again, even if you're in your 70s.
I mean, I know a lot of people who live in the Luberon. I have a lot of friends there. I love visiting them in their country homes. But when they need to do anything, they end up driving into X to
Yeah.
see doctors and whatever. So you just have to be prepared that you're going to have a country lifestyle.
Yeah, and this is something I very often say. Because you mentioned medical desert, and yes, I mean you want to be, oh, well, ideally you do not want to be more than half an hour from a big city because, well, if you are, it's highly likely that you'll be also more than half an hour from an hospital, and yeah,
That's right. Well, and it also means that, if you're in the hospital, your family and friends aren't coming there to visit so easily,
also yes,
right?
also yeah. Mm.
Yes, because,
Also, the definition of what we would call a big city in France might be much different than what you would call a big city back in the US.
well, okay, let's take Nice, for example. Okay. Nice is a city of about 325,000. So it's a relatively small city, but it's not small-minded because it's so international. It has people living here from all over the world. You
Three
see four
hundred thousand souls.
languages on the menu, English, French, Russian, and Italian.
Yeah. No, I mean, 300,000 people. I mean, technically for France is a big city, apart from Paris and maybe
Well, it's
Marseille.
the
But I
fifth
think
largest city.
no, but Paris has like 2 million people, and maybe Marseille, but any other city, then it drops massively. Then and then that's basically two cities who have close to 1 million person, and then everything else is like 500,000, and then it drops very quickly. So
Yes, but I mean, yeah, but in our terms, 300,000 is a small city.
oh yes, yes, but that's what I mean. The scale is different.
But
That's
as
what I
I
mean.
said, but it's small in terms of physical because you can walk from one end of the town to the other in 30 minutes, which makes it really livable and lovable. But it's not small town. It's not small-minded. And it's surrounded by, the entire Riviera. It's the hub of the whole Riviera.
Hmm.
So it just has a lot going for it.
Uh,
It really is a slice of heaven. I'm here today. I'm in Nice. It's 73 degrees, totally sunny. It's absolutely gorgeous.
oh yeah, no, well, I mean well, that's why the Riviera is well known for this. The Riviera is the Riviera. It's
It's the
from,
Riviera.
from
I mean,
Monaco to Cannes to Saint-Tropez to obviously like Nice and all
exactly.
those places, and you have all those small villages in between like Grasse and like yeah, even Menton next to. I mean, everything is gorgeous and
And
quite
we
different. France is very diverse when you think about that. I mean, the country
very,
is quite small and yet very, very diverse. I mean, I'm not just talking about
very.
the people, but also the landscapes, the
Look,
weather.
I
Yeah.
mean, Nice, the central Nice is flat, but then you go immediately into the hills. So there are all these beautiful hill towns right up above Nice. And in an hour and 45 minutes, you can be in a ski resort in the Alps. It's amazing. I mean,
Yeah.
you have access to everything here.
You mentioned a city being connected is of paramount importance, and it really is. For example, going to Bordeaux, well, from Bordeaux to Nice is very difficult, and
Very
vice versa.
difficult.
You have to, like you were saying, you have to go through
Go through
Paris.
Paris
Actually, going
or
east to
Marseille.
west or west to east is very difficult. Period. It's easy to go north to south or south to
Right.
north.
It's because of the Massif Central. You have to find a way to cross it. So to get to Bordeaux, you either have to go through Marseille or through Paris.
No, but I mean, even on a plane, that's like because the
Right.
mountain doesn't go that
Well, you
high.
end up flying. You end up flying rather than taking the train.
Yeah, so it's just it is important to look at wherever you want to be, but how I mean it's either you just want to be there and you won't move, maybe, but if you want to move around, you have to look at how well connected your city is and where you want to go or explore. So yeah.
I mean, most people I talk to want to be able to travel because when you're in the US, where do they travel to? They travel to Europe. That is a long flight and expensive flight. So if what they want is to see all of Europe, then you really have to be somewhere central and near an airport to do that, near a good airport. I literally flew from Naples to Nice on a 20 € EasyJet flight. Literally. It was
Yeah.
insane.
No, it's well, it's because it's very close as well. Yeah.
Exactly. But it's so easy. But if I was coming from the States to Naples, forget it. That's
Oh
a
yeah.
whole huge deal.
No, well, of course. The actually question that we talked about as well before this session. A lot of people sometimes are worried about some places in France being tagged as right wing, and like one is asking, I heard Nice is very right wing, isn't it? What's your take on that, or what would you say them?
I think that it gets confused because, first of all, um, Nice is becoming less and less and less right all the time because of all the international influx into it. Um, Rural France is still right. I mean, just like middle America is right,
I
so
was
is
about to say
middle
that, yeah,
right. Okay.
like rural America, yeah.
Well, people who do not have association with people of other cultures, countries, ethnicity are just more insular. That's just the way it is. But what I'm seeing across the board is a shift to the left. Now that they're watching Donald Trump in the right, they're seeing how that doesn't benefit them. And the pendulum is swinging further to the left. Marine Marine Le Pen convicted. We all cheered. Yes. But I don't ever think France will go that far right. I
No.
can't imagine it.
No, I don't think either. And also, I like to take comfort also knowing that, well, France is far right, is probably much more left-leaning than most far rights in Europe and in other countries.
Oh, well,
Although,
thanks for making that point, actually, because it's true. All of France is way further left than the US, period. Even the right in France is more like the left in the US.
well, even Marine Le Pen, for example, she doesn't want to shut down Social Security, which is French healthcare, by the way, for us.
Right?
She wants to lower the pension age and stuff like this. So basically, has a left-leaning social program. So even the far right in France is much different.
Yes, because
But we don't want that.
no, this is a socialist democracy. This is not a fully capitalist society. This is a blend. And so by virtue of that, all of the politics are further left. It's one of the things that makes it difficult to go back because the capitalist society that we come from uses profit as a leverage for everything. And that's why the healthcare system in the United States is so screwed up because it's based on profit. The sicker you are, the more money they make. Whereas in France, the healthier you are, the more money the government saves. So the equation is really right. And, here, healthcare is not a privilege, it's a right. Education is not a privilege, it's a right. These are things that are just so important in our everyday well-being.
Yeah, it's very important you're pointing that out because, for example, on the insurance side, I'm renewing something like 15% of private medical insurance. I should be renewing zero because they should be part of French healthcare because they're all entitled almost to get into French healthcare completely for free from within the first year. And yet I see quite a lot renewing their private medical insurance because they fail to be a part of French healthcare because they failed to realize that they were entitled to French healthcare, public healthcare.
Well, yeah,
That's a right. So it's
that's a
you don't
right.
have to pay for that.
When you get a visitor visa, okay, after 90 days, you can apply for Puma, which puts you on the French healthcare system, even though you never paid into it. And that will pay up to 70% of your healthcare costs. I mean, I'm sorry, but that's fantastic. And you and I know about the insurance. I have a mutuelle, right? A top-up insurance. And my top-up insurance with 100% coverage and no deductible, the best policy you can have at my crazy age, okay, which is
29 years old.
thank you, is only 1,900 euros a year.
The This is also a thing that it's a joke I like to make because mutuals, for example, I mean, this is an American thing. Copay, deductible doesn't exist in France. I mean, private medical insurance itself doesn't exist in France. If you ask about that to any French native, they'd look at you dead in the eye. It's like, what are you talking about? Because all we know is mutual, and mutuals, they don't have deductibles, they don't have copays, they have nothing like this. And
Right.
the joke I like to make is that, well, they do have technically a deductible, which is €1 and has been raised to €2, and it made the headlines. And the headlines were like, they're doubling the deductible.
Doubling from 1 to 2, right? It's like
Exactly. But so it's safe to
like
say
when
there's
they
no
say
deductible.
it's like when they say property taxes are going up 30%. Okay, so what does that mean? That means it goes from 600 to 900 or something, right? And you're going, oh my God, it's 10 times that in the US. This is why people who are considering selling their homes, okay, they have we're doing a lot of conversation right now with our clients about whether they should sell their US homes now or wait, right? Because we talked about the market being in flux and the rate of exchange being in flux. But what could happen is that, first of all, the value of their homes could go down as people are losing their jobs and things are getting more expensive. Maybe they can't afford to buy houses, so the property market in the US could really suffer, right? But if they sell their home, they can eliminate that property tax. They're very expensive US property taxes. It's a huge savings.
Mm.
Someone recently told me their property tax was $24,000 a year. I mean,
1,000. Whoa. Yeah.
that same home in equivalent in Paris would have been €1,000 a year,
Oh.
not 24,000. I was shocked.
I'm just seeing a question from Mary, which I think is interesting. Never heard that. Are there parts of France to avoid if you want to remain in a liberal bubble?
To avoid completely?
or the part of France to avoid
Paris,
if you want to be in, yeah.
Paris, Paris.
Yeah. No,
Like
well, that's where you want to be, not that the place that you want to avoid.
no, 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 no. That's where you want to be.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, Paris is certainly probably
Progressive place,
the
well,
most
like,
progressive liberal
yeah,
place.
places which are progressive, yeah. No,
Yes,
it is.
but they're talking about the French. And when you're an American moving here, you're more likely to associate with other Americans before you'd associate with other French. And if you do associate with other French, if you make French friends, they're more likely to be people who speak English, who have traveled widely or lived in the US at some point, and they're more likely going to be open-minded and on the left.
Mm.
The same story, right?
Just one thing real quick about the property purchase, because I'm seeing a lot of questions about different places. Just by the way, for the audience, I know there's a lot of questions. We're going to share your question with Adrian and her team after the event. This is a bank holiday tomorrow, so it might take us a couple of days, but I mean, we'll get there.
Right,
So
tomorrow's Labor Day.
exactly. So we're gonna get back in touch with you. That's what I'm saying. For those we could not answer live, uh, um, but basically, yes. So someone's asking, about the house buying process, and is that the same through France? Which is actually a great question because obviously it sounds simple for us, but
Well, the house buying process is not as simple or quick as it is in the US, but thank goodness there
this
are
is the
people,
same all across France. Yeah.
yeah, it's the same all across France, but fortunately there are people like us who can help you through the process. I don't recommend doing it alone. There are too many pitfalls along the way, and there's no MLS, so the agents really only represent the seller, not the
Oh
buyer.
yeah. Mm.
And
But
and
the good thing
it's
about
why we exist. That's why
no,
I
no,
have a job.
it is. The thing I like though is that the notarized system in France, like you have to go through people, like it's well, it is possible to not get a good deal, that's commercial, but it's difficult to be scammed though, it's like because there is a notary in between and
Right.
so you cannot walk away with your funds, that's what I'm saying.
No, they're highly culpable.
Mm. So
Right.
so that's
No,
great.
they're highly restricted, they're highly culpable, and the system actually works very, very well. It's highly administrative,
It is France.
they cross their T's and they dot their I's, and in the end, it's not a
And we
risk.
came up with other letters as well. In
Oh
that
yeah. Oh
in that
yeah.
saying,
Oh yeah.
we might highlight the W's, or I don't know. Yes.
We only have a few minutes left. We want to make sure that our questions have something to do with 100 days of Donald Trump, though, don't we?
Yeah. Well, I think we've talked about that. There's one thing which is I think, well, my personal opinion. I'm not sure it is exactly what happened, but I've seen that going on, and it came out of the blue a bit. The the damages of the Donald Trump presidency on the French immigration process in the US. Because in the US, you used to have a contractor which was VFS Global, who was an American contractor, and I think it was like yes, well, actually, almost 100 days into Donald Trump's presidency, they've changed this contractor to a French contractor,
Right,
which is
TLS.
TLS Contact. And I do think, I mean, it may not be the only reason, but I think there is a bit of a political situation here because it's one of those things. The French government as well, the public sector has walked away from Microsoft Office, for example. So basically, I'm seeing a trend to try to walk away from sometimes US services to also say, okay, well, we're going to do things our way. And I think, like you were saying, they differentiate American people, which we still love and like. I liked what Trudeau said about that. We love American people. We may not be in line with the American government or current management team, let's call them. Yeah.
Well, why would France want to spend their money with an American organization when they can spend it with a French organization?
No,
Okay.
but because we were friends and we still are, I think, but it doesn't seem to go both ways
Yeah,
these
well,
days.
at the moment, but the other thing that's happened as a result of Donald Trump's tariffs and other things is that the EU is really coming together to find ways of not needing the United States and being stronger. And I think that's great. I agree with that. I'd rather see Europe really, strengthen themselves.
No, right? I mean, well, Mid to long term, I really think it's going to be, yeah, like I've never seen Europe so united. You're right. Actually, I've seen a headline that I loved: Trump, the great
That's also
unifier.
good. See, that's also good against the right.
Oh, right.
When Europe
Well,
is
it is.
united, that also combats the right.
No, you're
So
right.
it's a healthy thing. It's part of the pendulum swinging in the other direction. You know, maybe we needed Donald Trump to give us a wake-up call.
Well, I'm a huge believer in karma. So I think whatever happens, we deserve it. It's for a good reason. And also, I'm an optimist. And I'm an optimist, yeah, transparent. So.
I mean, look at, COVID was a terrible thing to deal with, but a lot of good has actually come out of COVID.
Especially in France, they've
This,
digitalized a lot of processes.
well, and this is what, yes, and this is one of them. We did not have these Zoom webinars prior to
Hmm?
COVID.
You're right.
We weren't able to, you know, disseminate this amount of information before.
Well,
So
you had to
that,
do a
I
lot of
think,
physical paperwork to do a visa. It wasn't online.
no, that's right. So I think that, we're going to see a lot of good come out of all this bad.
Yeah,
And it is bad. I mean, every day I
and
scream
the
at the
bottom line that we start this Zoom meeting with is that Americans are welcome. I mean, the French,
yes,
you were saying,
absolutely.
the French love American. I mean, I remember as far back as I can remember at school, French public school, we constantly told that, US is our oldest ally. We love Americans. We culturally quite close. I mean, we're culturally different. There are differences, definitely, but we
Completely
feel
opposite,
close
by
to
the
you.
way.
Yeah, sorry.
Completely opposite
Yeah, well, it depends. I mean,
culturally.
it depends because I see Americans as warm as the French in a way. Like it's easy to speak with an American person, and I think like we connect easily, although there are some cultural differences. But it is deeply rooted into the French culture. I mean, the French bashing that you may have in the US, it doesn't exist the other way around. There's no American bashing in France, pretty much.
Though that you remember the French bashing with the freedom fries?
Yeah.
That was George Bush.
Yeah, well, I mean, the French like to banter. It's usually not culture specific. When something happens, we like to make fun of people. Yeah. So, yeah, irony is a big thing in France, indeed. Yeah.
So we only have a few minutes. What's your last question?
Well, I have questions in the Q&A section. I think we've covered
Find
all
something
the
for
main
Q&A.
topics. Quick question, but well, it's not a question. Quick reminder. After this event tomorrow morning, morning French time, we will send a follow-up email to all of the registrants so that you'll have, Adrian and team contacts details. So you'll have a way to reach out, okay,
Thank
to
you.
Adrian or to our team.
I'm going to
You
post this on my YouTube,
Brilliant. So, if
right?
they want to
So
reach
people
out
can watch
without
it.
waiting tomorrow, they can get you on your website maybe
Oh
or
yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
Adrian.
As soon as I get your recording, I can post it.
Yes. So which will work very hard to get it. I mean, again, tomorrow is a day
It's
off, and
Labor Day. I am hosting.
we passed apero time, so we're doing our time here.
Okay, let me just say that I am unofficially hosting a picnic, okay, in Nice for anyone who wants to show up on the grass of the Coulée Verte, which and it just on the quadrant that is east of the fountain. So
Oh.
it's in the middle, okay, near the there's a statue there, and I've got it on my website. I've got it on my newsletters. So anyone who wants to come find us on the grass, we're going to be there tomorrow as of noon.
That's great. That's great.
Yeah. I have
So,
no idea how many, it may just be me. I don't know how many people are going to show up. But I'm planning on going and hanging out because you know what happens? If I don't do these picnics, then I end up staying home and working on Labor Day.
oh yes, no, no. The French
As an
don't like that.
American, right? That's what we do. We work.
No, but that's, yeah, well, the cultural differences. If anything, this is also something I like to say often. The French love basically anyone that's not French. So you're exotic to us. So we love that. And again, thank you everyone for joining because well, like last time, you've been many joining this event, so that was great. Thank you, Adrian, for being here
Thank
despite
you,
the cold.
Fabien. Thank you. And thank you, our support team, Nanny and Patty, who are not on camera, but behind the scenes, checking things out, making sure everything's
Yeah,
running.
I feel a bit overwhelmed because 3 Americans against one tiny French.
Oh, come on.
No, no, I'm kidding.
It's more about 3 women, one guy.
You're right. Oh, yeah. Well, that's impressive as well. Yeah.
We've
But thank you,
outnumbered.
everyone. Thank you for the
Thank you,
love.
everyone, for coming, and hope to see you soon. And enjoy. Happy
Yeah, and
Labor
we'll get
Day.
back in touch very, very soon. Thank you, Adrian, again. Thank you, Nani and Patty. Thanks,
Bye.
everyone.
Au revoir.
Bye. Au
À
revoir.
bientôt.